Hi, welcome back to Hidden Parts of the Podcast. I'm Sean Monet, and today's episode we'll be talking about relationship building and how to grow forward. I have a special guest, but before I introduce my special guest, I'd just like to say a few things about relationships. As humans, the relationships we form with others are vital to our mental and emotional well being, and even our own survival. So today, joining me, I have James Earl Hollywood III. Mr. Hollywood, that's his real last name, holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in criminology, pre law. He holds a Master of Public Administration degree with an emphasis on nonprofit management and human resource management, a Master of Science degree in strategic communications with an emphasis in policy and law from Arkansas State University. Mr. Hollywood, a dynamic relational leader with heart, is motivated by service and has combined professional career involving aspects of early childhood, higher education, criminal and juvenile justice systems, organizational development, overseeing organizational and community functions, child welfare systems, equitable and sustainable policies, workforce innovations, economic opportunities, community engagement, and efforts in reducing foster care entries and group care homes entries across the country. Mr. Hollywood has a list of talents, and I'm so thankful to have him here. Welcome, James Earl Hollywood III. Hi, James.
Hey, Shawnee.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How
That's
you
good.
doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Thank you for having me this afternoon.
Yeah, I think I'm just really impressed by all the things that you do. And I wanted to share with my audience, everything that you're so passionate about. So I'd like to give you this opportunity to go forward. Tell me about you. What's
Oh,
going on with you?
thank you, Shawnee. Well, before I get started, if you allow me to let the world know who I am.
Go for it.
So, yes, real name is James Earl Hollywood III. Um, I come from a very small town in southeast Missouri. It's a rural community. When I was growing up in the '90s, it was about 6,000 people, and I grew up with no father. My father went off to pursue his music career when I was a young boy, and my mother, she worked really hard when I was a young child and raising three siblings of my own, and so I had my first job at the age of 13, and from there I used to work construction with my stepfather and my grandfather who owned a construction company. And so I learned how to work with my hands early on in life. I did, as you know, I do have children. So I have nine children. My wife have six when I first met her. I have three of my own. But in my story, I had my first child at the age of 15, and she was born premature 4.5 months early. And here I was 16 and a half years old, going into my junior year of high school after playing multiple sports and involved with a lot of extracurricular activities. I had my first child on the way. And so it was one of those really tough moments where not having a father at home and trying to learn how to become a man, and it took a lot of relationships throughout my life and shaped me and molded me to who I am today and to the father of my nine children and the husband to my wife.
Well, that's big. That's
Yes.
big. So, um, you said your father went to pursue his music career. Did you have access to him, or it became a relationship between you and your stepfather?
Um, it wasn't really. I really didn't have the relationship I did with my dad until I got a little bit older to understand that, hey, there was a dad, because growing up in that small community that I did, you really didn't see a lot of fathers or dads in the home. It was just something that you would possibly see on TV. And so it was just really normal to me, I guess, because my grandmother was married. So I stayed with her all the way up until the age of 7 and moved in with my real mother. And but it wasn't until I saw my mom as a single mother after she moved on with her life with another stepfather that I had at the time, and so she remained single for quite a while until I got up into my teenage years. So I really didn't know what it like what's like to have a father or a man. So I just learned from the different relationships and different people that I've seen within the community by learning some things from them and some things that I knew that you're not supposed to do.
Mm. So those things that you learned that you were not supposed to do, was it by experience or did you just see it and make a conscious decision that, I'm not going that way?
Um, I knew early on that I didn't want to be what I saw in my community. What I mean by what I saw things that were really not so good. You talking about poverty? I believe at that time that um, the annual salary for a single parent during that time was about $9,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
My mother raised me and my two brothers, including herself, off of $238 a month in welfare. My mother battled through postpartum depression as she gave birth to my third brother, and so I had to step up and be the man of the household. And with her battling through some challenges following after pregnancy, um, I had to step up and be the man of the household.
Mm.
I had to budget that $238 to ensure that my brothers and my mom don't had the food that we needed, the lights, making sure the yard was cut, and different things like that. And so when there was times that the $238 didn't stretch, I would pick up cans, I would rake leaves, I would mow the grass, and so I did those type of things to be able to make sure that my siblings and my mother was taken care of. And when my mother overcame that depression, she went to work. She went right back into nursing school, and she worked 3 jobs.
Mm.
And so there I go again. I'm the man raising two other brothers, and I'm there in the community trying to learn, and took some relationships that I had early on that was in church and some other people that I have saw like in the stores and different things like that into shaping me to who I am today.
Wow. That's awesome. So the relationships, you just kind of fell into those relationships with mentors, I'll say, in your church and in your community. Did they openly volunteer this information to you to kind of help you in your situation? Because it's always important to be willing to receive. Not everybody is, so when somebody's trying to give them information, whether it's a relationship that they're in or it's just a regular comment or suggestion, people tend to throw their hands up and they're not willing vessels at the moment to hear what whoever has to offer. You said you were very young, and in this generation, that's my comparison. The young adults sometimes know everything. So I can imagine that that wasn't you.
Oh,
How did you receive constructive criticism from people that you had relationships with to kind of help propel you to be the man of the house at such a young age, if that makes sense?
I need to rephrase. Let me use a different word. I thought I was the man of the house. Can I add? I thought I
Yeah.
was the man of the house,
Thank you.
but there was some challenges that I had to face as far as like things that I did pick up on that a man was supposed to do. I believe I seen most of those roles that was on either TV or reading in books
Mm.
or seeing some of my other friends, family members of how a man was supposed to be. So um, as far as like the relationships I had with the men that I would call mentors, it was a different type of I'm not sure if like mentoring that we having today. It
Mhm.
was basically there was a lot of different programs that was in the community. Boys and Girls Club was really active in the community. when I was growing up. So we had a bus that would come pick us up and take us to the boys club and take us back home. They would feed you after school programs, and there was tutoring, there was activities if they want to play soccer, if they want to play football and basketball, and you actually had some. There was actually genuine people that really cared for you. It was like a mother and father home away from home, and most of those guys that was in my community during that time, they was the bus drivers, someone was the school teachers, and someone was the coaches, and someone was those program leaders. There was one program that we had was called Weed and Seed, and it was teaching a lot about like preventing early teen pregnancies, and which I so it was just different programs in the community, and to this day, I'm still in contact with most of those guys, and they still in the community of being a pillar in the community.
Wow, that's big. And I know they're proud of you
Yes.
because you've gone on to not only pay it forward, you're doing great things in the community yourself. So I know you're new to Baltimore, Maryland, um, and you're fairly new, 10 months new, right?
It felt like an eon.
so,
Yes.
so I can't wait to see what great things you have in store for the community that you live in, bringing all that fresh experience from Arkansas. I know that we would benefit from it. Do you have a desire to do that?
Yes, I have a desire. I'm actually a really humble servant, so everything that throughout life is too much for me to be able to say it's James. My faith in God and in Jesus Christ, um, that is the reason why I do what I do. And what he have taught me was to continue to love and just continue to love and serve. And so I am looking forward to bringing everything that I have, all the experience that I had, to be able to help within the communities in Baltimore and in the state of Maryland. So that's involving bringing the youth voices to the tables to help educate us and to be able to help us to be able to understand their lifestyles. Because one thing I have learned about relationships, if you really want to have genuine relationships with people, it takes empathy, it takes listening without judgment and criticism, listening without trying to respond. Listening about communication is one of the greatest rules, one of the greatest piece of wisdom that I wish I had early on in life, which it probably was taught, but I wasn't listening.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing that I really would love to lean into and supporting as much as I can, as many opportunities as I can, has been able to bring everything I have in my toolbox and just serve.
That sounds really good, and I'm available to help. It's a skill to listen. To be a good listener is really a skill. It should be a course in itself because most people listen to respond, but they don't actually listen before they respond. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Like I said, I got hit in my head a couple times. Um, there have been people that I would say that I value throughout my life, and the reason why they were so impactful is because they took the time to listen to me and help guide me in right directions. Those relationships, they are still key to this day. The one that really mostly support me and the one that's by me most of the time is my wife, and I really contribute her to a lot of the area that I've grown within. That is one key intimate relationship that was founded between man and woman, and I'm grateful to have that because she's able to listen to me, not only just listen to me, but see me and to be able to help steer me in the right way. And we're able to communicate. That's another part of relationships. It takes really good communication and it takes trust.
Absolutely. And you said two things that are very important. So, there are a couple of ways that you can listen. you can listen with your ears, but you also, it sounds crazy, but you listen with your eyes.
Yes.
So when you have relationships with people, coworkers, friends, whomever, you can listen to them without them even saying a word. So you said something really key, and it's affected my life as well. Just being able to, when you think of maybe rearing your child, because your child may not have the vocabulary to communicate their desires or their needs, you have to be present, and that's in any relationship. Would you agree?
Yes, I certainly agree that I believe it was Miles Monroe that don't get me I may be wrong to quote this, but it basically said that if you can show me the five people or the five things that you surround yourself around, I can tell you about yourself. And so what that does is it allows you to be able to examine, am I hanging around good or bad influence? Is this something that I really need in my life or not? And a lot of times that we get caught into patterns and habits,
Mhm.
and so we have to be able to remove those things that we see that's causing us destruction and death. And so it really takes a lot to do it. Well, it's really important for those that you really have those that have the light. And what I mean by the light is those that have an example where you're trying to go and something you can be able to learn from them. And and I mean, I'm a bold person, so I go up to people, hey, can you tell me how you did this, or can you tell me how you overcame this? Have you experienced this? And those are those authentic relationships that I done had and built with those individuals that I can still go to for guidance.
I think that's bold in itself. I don't know, like I'm an inquisitive person just by nature. I always just want to see how things work, but I don't know if I have the guts to just walk up to a person to say, ask that question. Did it happen overnight, or it's just the way you're made that you're comfortable enough to
Mm,
go and ask those hard questions?
not really. I wouldn't go up to a stranger and ask them a question, but I am. I mean, just being honest, I have naturally there's people that really come up and just speak, and
Mhm.
so when they speak, I hear their stories, and there's a lot of times that we find commonality with one another and able to leave a word of encouragement to them, and that's um, I do have a few devotionals that I put out. Being a God fearing man in a fatherless society, and um, and being light in a dark world.
Mhm.
And so, how I'm speaking towards that is that I'm able to go into various environments, and there's people that's poured to me that really need the word and encouragement to keep going and keep fighting because when we dialogue and have those conversations in public or wherever they at, they're able to see that I don't look like what I've been through.
Mhm.
I have been through a lot, and I believe the more that we get to being in environments, I'm not saying that go talk to strangers, where the more that we are able to build relationships with someone and anyone and empathetically listen to them and help them to do better, most of the times when you're trying to help them to do better, it's not going to change them. It's going to change you of how you care for them.
Mhm.
And so that's how I look at how important that is.
Mhm. That makes sense. It really does. But there's still a process to getting there, and choosing relationships. You mentioned a few minutes ago about like 5 people that you hang around with. Some people just aren't fortunate, to have anyone to hang around with. Some people are loners by choice. So developing relationships may be hard for them. Do you have a talking point for any person that would find themselves in that situation?
Most wouldn't think I'm a little. I like to be by myself sometimes to unplug, and there's different avenues and different ways out. Some like to read. Some
Mhm.
like to go on walks. Some like to go in nature. Some like have animals, dogs, cats, rabbits, turtles. Some have their different ways of socializing or whatever. And so it's a relationship. Who said it has to be about having a relationship with other individuals?
That's kind of where I was going.
Yes.
Relationship to self,
Yes.
which is really, really important because you can't really be um, a friend or you can't be in a healthy relationship until you know yourself first, right?
Yes.
So, spending time doing those things that you just spoke of are ways that you can get to know yourself, reading, and just maybe self affirmations. You spoke about that as well. Um, are ways to show self love. And in doing all of that, you're able to communicate something that you know, not something you heard about.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and I think that might make your light shine brighter too, right?
Yes. Yes. Definitely taking care of yourself. That's number one. That is essentially number. That's key. Um, taking those times to be able to just breathe, taking the moment to just being in a moment to just being in the presence
Hmm.
with no noise. Taking those moments to unplug. If there's a desire that you want to go to the gym or you want to go to the movies, that takes planning and it takes a lot of accountability, and that's where the authentic relationships come in to play to help you grow. Is you have accountability partners.
Hmm.
Accountability can come from many different things.
Yeah, it's an obligation to yourself. Since we were
Hmm.
talking about self love, you have an obligation to yourself, but you also have an obligation to others. You know, it's not all about us.
Yes.
As much as we might want to believe, like I think it's all about me sometimes, but I know it's not all about me. It's not all about us, and we have. I think we are charged with helping others. Um, Other shows always well I've referred to in other shows how when you're flying um, on an airplane and they give you that safety spiel where you're supposed to, if necessary, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can assist others. I use that analogy all the time because if we're not well, we can't be well for somebody else. And the whole purpose is for all of us to grow forward. We should never be stagnant. We should never keep ourselves in a situation where we're the same, we're complacent. And growing forward is just so important for everybody, but it's not easy for everybody. So you were lucky enough to have mentors. I was lucky enough to have mentors in my life. But again, we talk about people that have experienced unimaginable things that only they know inside. So it takes a minute. There are things like healing, there are things that you have to do to position yourself to
Hmm.
grow. You agree?
I certainly agree. When I experienced a lot of trauma in my childhood and parts of my adult life, it spoke a lot in the professional field called adverse childhood experiences, and those are negative experiences that you have experienced as a child. And so I had dealt with some own personal mental health challenges myself, anxiety, um, and so I took a route to go through some self help and some healing. Counseling was thrown about a lot,
Hmm.
especially when I got to college in 2010. It wasn't so prevalent in the community that I grew up in because it was so rural, but we still heard something about there was some type of thing called therapy. We didn't even hear the word counseling. So it wasn't until I went off to college to took a part of the free services that was on campus, and that was therapy.
Mm.
Um, now I know now there was a lot more other therapy that I could have been doing, like exercising. But I took part of therapy and still take part of therapy to this day. And also sought additional help to overcome some of the things to be able to heal from some of the wounds from my childhood, a lot of trauma. Um, that was rebuilding those relationships back with my parents and, for example, like my father.
Mm.
And so um, that is some of the growth that I had to go through and acknowledge, and it really stemmed down to my own health, my own mental health,
Mm.
my own physical, my own social health. And a lot of times there aren't good examples to go to, but there's still someone that may be there. It may be that sales associate at the store. It may be that bus driver, which was one of them in my case. It may be that school teacher. It may be that gym coach. It may be even the custodian. It may be another person on the street.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that we can be able to learn from any and everyone. It's just that we're going to have the eye and the willingness to be able to go after what we desire to seek.
And the key word that we referenced earlier was listen. And that's listen, ears, listen with sight. And it's very important because all of those professions that you spoke about, bus driver, custodian, yeah, I am the beneficiary of a custodian. My grandmother, who um, could only grow to the eighth grade, right? But she raised a whole household, a whole family off of a custodian's salary. And being a willing vessel to listen and learn without judgment, without saying, who are you, custodian lady, to tell me about life? And I think having that experience has made me the person that I am today because when I look to listen, to learn, it's very important for me to not care about what they're bringing, like in form in the form of professional titles or how they're looking or whatever. I value until they prove themselves wrong because there are a lot of people out here that need help, but I value the opinion of or the words that anyone tells me because the word of God says that we're it says about angels, how we entertain angels.
Yes.
So you never know what word is meant for you. So you have to be open. And I had to grow to that part of my life to be able to say this today. But it started with a custodian lady who did not earn half of what most of us earn today, but she was able to put food on the table. She was able to pay college tuition. She was able to do so much with such a little bit, and from that experience, it taught me to listen, and to respect the opinions or the I won't say opinions, but the value that people would want to add to you. Because most times when they want to say something to you, it's because they care for you and they feel like whatever it is that they have to say to you will bring value to you. Does that
Yes,
make sense?
yes. You hit on a key word, which is another component to relationships, is respect.
Mm.
And first, the charge is only honor to yourself, respect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then it goes outward into the home, uh, your friends and associates, and then your community. As when it's like the community, I mean, why take your soda cup and pitch it out the window? Or so we have to get back to when I say we, I mean that as a collective group of people that gotta show respect and genuineness and kindness to.
One another.
Yes,
We got to want to see people do better
yes,
in in a non-judgmental way.
and not hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
We as a people, we done been through a lot, and we just continue to hurt one another. If each one of us just take and do, not saying you can do more than one, but just one kind deed a day. If you got the means, share, help.
Mhm.
It don't even have to be monetary to serve.
I, it's true. It doesn't have to be. It's a kind word. It's a smile. It's a held door. It's a I'm gonna help you with that project, uh, so that I can help lift you, and see you succeed.
Yes, it's definitely that's how we form community. That's how we form better relationships. We get into the world what we put out into the world, and like I said, I always go back to the inner eye, ourself.
Mhm.
What are we giving ourselves? And then that affects the rest of the atmosphere that we involved in.
Mhm.
And a part of that self-respect we were just talking about is that judgment and that criticism and focus on what other people have and what they do.
Mhm.
That takes away from your good spirit, which is more of love and joy and happiness and peace. The
Yeah.
more you look and criticize and make fun of other people, those are words that you're putting out there. And really, they always you could say point one finger. There's two more pointing back at you, and we all should be able to want to strive and become better and do better.
And we should all be willing to receive that direction, or kind word as much as we want to give it. Sometimes it's hard to receive. So, words are powerful. I'm a woman of God, so I know that the tongue is the most powerful thing that we have. In science, it's the most dirty thing we have. But, the words that we speak literally can grow, and you choose whether it's going to be to the positive or the negative.
Yes, words are words are so powerful. It's just
Mhm.
funny that we having this conversation today. Is because I was writing in. I believe I'm writing another book.
Uh-oh.
It's called the hearing silence of trauma,
Okay.
and that was one of the principles I was discussing was how important words are, whether they spoken, um, written, heard, and also it's important with the thoughts that you have in your head. There's a old famous book, "As a Man Thinketh, So Is He," and so there's another book I was reading. One of my best friends from Arkansas shared with me the Hidden Waters. Glenn shared with me about the Hidden Waters, and we used to have a lot of different intellectual conversations about growing and traveling as men in the world. And the Hidden Water spoke about like the vibrations of water. We can speak to water just like they say you can speak to plants. It's either going to kill the plant or it's going to bring the plant and make it a lot more alive. The same way with water. You can speak to water and there's certain vibrations of the water. And so those are important components as far as when we start speaking about relationships because those things that we speak, those things that we say, those things that we write, even like some of the even to like drawings and different things like that, those things have messages. And so it's not taking away a person's creativity or we just want to be able to put within our body or the things that's around our body. We want to put good things in it if we want.
The benefits,
Yes,
positive
because
benefits.
there are benefits to those areas. Those are those are areas of blessings that he will continue to allow that seed to be able to be planted into others.
Mhm.
As a father of 9 children, we don't want to see our children to repeat anything that we have did, or we don't want them to go through or experience anything that we have experienced.
Mhm.
So we have to break the cycle.
Mhm. Hey James. So, do they call you Hollywood as a nickname?
Yes, they do. Sadly, yes.
Do you like it? Because I'm about to wear it out if you say I can call you Hollywood.
It's
I'll
it's
call you James.
okay. Thank you. Yes.
Talking about breaking cycles, that is one of the topics that people have been talking about for years, and no one seems to be able to write the prescription for it. So, with that being said, for me personally, there are things that I do to try and break cycles, whether it be, like I said, with rearing my child or building relationships. I always look at what experience I have, like growing up or relationships around me. And those things with negative benefits, I look at, and when I call myself breaking a cycle, I see that example and I run the opposite way. I know that's not a healthy approach, but do you have one to offer, a suggestion?
If I had a prescription, I would say a lot of households are broken.
Mm-hmm.
The man is not there, as I was explaining earlier, how it wasn't there and prevalent in the community that I grew up in as a young boy. Um, Breaking the cycles really starts at home. Um, in the case that there is a father and a mother, and are present, the father and the mother shall do everything they can to make sure that the child has everything and the best things that they can have. Um, as explained earlier, it doesn't have to even be in the form of a gift, as far as like having to spend money for it. It's teaching them and showing them how to do certain things, and kids are just curious. The things that they learn between the age of 0 to 7 is really impactful for their life. It really projects their life, as far as like the different things that they learn early on. Young children have the capacity to be able to learn a foreign language a lot more faster and quicker than an adult can, because their mind is made up that way. And children learn through play. And so the more that we show up as parents, uh, whether in the home or not in the home, the more we can be able to help break some of those cycles. I do understand that there are some mother and fathers that are not there, and that's where we have others that come in and wrap around that family and support that family for the well-being of that child. And those are some of those programs that we need in the community, and those communities that we do have in the community. Um, Last week, I went to an art program that was inside of the city. It was really fantastic. I believe they served almost 800 young people
Mm.
over the course of the year, and they was allowing those young people to use their creativity and to be able to express how they feel. And that work was really, really amazing. I seen some future authors in that work. I seen some children books and all different things like that. But those communities are in the program to be able to help young people get involved. I have two of my younger boys. They about to get involved with Boy Scouts, which is not so common, but I was a scout, and that was one of the things that helped me instill some
Was
values.
it one of your sons that I met? Or
Uh,
is he a little too old for?
no, that's the oldest one.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay. All right. So we spoke about children. What about adults who maybe not missed that boat, but it is what it is, and we're here now. Cycles that maybe weren't addressed in childhood and just traveled with us to adulthood.
One of those challenges as far as breaking cycles in our adulthood is making sure we get our finances in line and get them in order. There's some things that I would have probably told my younger self, especially in undergraduate and college, and that was identifying a need and a want.
Mm-hmm.
And so, growing up, we just had the bare minimum of food. Sometimes it was food pantries, even the applesauce with no no sweetener or anything in there,
Mm.
and making the scratch whatever we had to do and eat with what we had. We really didn't have no choices, and so that helped shaped me and molded me a little bit into who I am, along with the relationships that have helped me in that area of finances to basically put together a budget and just have an idea of where the habits at. If I'm spending a lot of money on fast food, or am I spending a lot of money on these different things, or do I even really need those clothing at this time to ensure that my child have the best that they need, the best education, and making sure they have clothes so they won't have to go through what I went through as a young child. There was times that I did not have shoes. They was either too small, my toe was busting out of them. There was sometimes I didn't have socks and underwear. And then when I was growing up, the July August period and December was the hardest on my mother. That's because the light bill went up in the summertime and in the wintertime because of the heat
Mm.
and the cool. So um, helping to identify what your needs and wants are, and helping you get your finances in line so that you can be able to do something else with those other funds that you wasn't able to do since it was mostly spent. Um, it's not necessarily only just monetary in that area. It really comes down to like making good choices and good habits and good behaviors.
Hmm.
If you want to see something different, it's good to always try something different.
Do
And
something different.
yes, and so it really comes with identifying areas that like I want to overcome this. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I was homeless once before. Stayed in my car once before, and when it came time to work, I went into work, and so I didn't I didn't stay homeless long because my mom wanted me back home, and I really didn't. I was a really private person then. Like I
Mm.
said, I really didn't seek counseling until I was into college. So there was a lot of things that I really kept on the inside, but now that's back to communication. It really helps out a lot. So it's just really uh, communicating to yourself that I want something different. I want something better,
Hmm.
and then holding yourself accountable for it. And then the more you see, the more you attract, the more you be able to help other people to overcome their level of breaking the cycle.
That's rich. Really rich. Because there is a set of people um, that believes the way Big Mama did it was the only way to do it. So they don't acknowledge it as even a cycle. They just acknowledge it as this is the way, it's supposed to be done. So that person who doesn't have that gauge, I guess it's all into self again. You have to be aware of your surroundings and always want more for yourself. And that is a way to break a cycle.
Yes, you definitely gotta have that drive on the inside. And
Hmm.
like I said, I don't want to be paycheck to paycheck. I know what it is to have that negative overdraft charge in
Yeah.
the bank account,
Mm.
and it's not it's not fun not having the food and your stomach growling. Or I'm thankful that we have school lunches and stuff so kids can be able to function, and that we do have a means to be able to eat. But are we going to spend all our money on things that and then suffer at the end and don't have nothing?
So choices,
Yes.
because you could work, get your paycheck every 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm a advocate of paying yourself, but I also, out of my self discipline, I always say to myself, just because you can doesn't mean you have to. So once I think about a purchase or something I'm about to do, it always sets me back to really think about whatever it is that I want to do before I go ahead and do it. So just because you can doesn't mean you have to, is the way that I call myself breaking cycles because um, we didn't have those examples. I didn't have examples. I didn't have, and I don't know many people that have had the opportunity of sitting down at the table, going over the budget with your mom. I'm reared in a single parent household as well, and my mom never sat us down, my brother and I, to say, here's my paycheck and here's all of the bills, and I think if she had of, I may have respected finances a little more than I do. I didn't do that with my daughter either, but I was just talking to one of my girlfriends, and we talk about do-overs a lot, and if I had to do or have a do-over, it would be just that because my mom didn't, but I should have. You know, in a single parent household, I should have said, hey, instead of me breaking my back to make sure she has what she wants and what she needs, I should have sat her down at the table and say, hey, this is what we have coming in and this is what we have going out. I should have maybe let her see me roll some pennies, for her to have respect for money. So I think having respect for your finances is definitely a taught thing.
Yes, it's funny that you say that. My children I have at home, I really don't show them the bills. They just know that groceries and everything get bought. But one of my colleagues shared the idea with me, and we started implementing it. We started invoicing them, but
Oh, why am I just hearing this?
it's just like a job. You gotta file a 1099.
What?
Yeah, so our children get invoices on everything that we do for 'em and the food so they can be able to understand the value and so they can be able to respect things a lot more so when they
Hmm.
get older. And so that's breaking a cycle, and the mentality is that things cost in the world. If you want to live the way you live and eat the way you want to eat and go where you want to go, here's some real life examples as far as how much this would cost you. And so you understand to be able to respect that and have value of those different things. But I do want to go back to a point that we missed earlier. Some are not fortunate enough to break the cycle, and I'm speaking to some of those that are a little bit more less than fortunate,
Hmm.
like like the homeless, even like dogs or whatever. And so something that we can do is we can look at the person, wave at them, smile, and say one kind word to them, or if we was able to have a conversation with them, share a resource with them. There's too many things that we can be able to share alone, and that can help break the cycle there because the homeless population, it may be increasing and decreasing in certain areas, but it's still there and still prevalent, and so we cannot fail to forget to build relationships with others that really need the help as well as servants.
That's a good point. It's just so hard to not be judgmental because oftentimes, um, right here in my community, the people that appear to be homeless are because of a drug addiction or by choice. It's not that people don't extend a hand, they literally choose to be in the situation that they're in. So, I'm sure it wasn't a cycle for them. I think that in that instance, it's just a choice. So, I know we can't save the world, but, in terms of breaking cycles, I much prefer we just focus on sowing a seed.
Mm-hmm.
And when we sow a seed, it's not by word, it's not by finances all the time, it's by deed. Like I've been told, you walk your sermon, right? So um I think when people, and this is double loaded because you mentioned it earlier, but women, myself, people in general, we go through this thing where we don't look like what we've been through, right? We do such a good job not looking like what we've been through that we're convincing people that that's how it is. And I think it's a benefit to not look like what you've been through, but sometimes being like vulnerable enough to share what you've been through is what would help somebody because they only see what you present. Of course, you're not just going to bare all of your whole soul to a
Mm-hmm.
stranger for someone to use it against you if they had that evil ability to
Mm-hmm.
do something like that. But um, we do a good job hiding what we've been through. So Is there a creative way, or have you thought about, with all of your studies, how to be impactful to a person when you look like you have it all together, but you've experienced X, Y, and Z, and still, be able to help?
Yes, relationships does take trust, and so we all, no matter where we at, we have an influence to anyone that's around us. We have enough relationship with those that are around us that we can be able to that we able to listen and know who they are and help.
Bear witness,
Yes.
bear witness. And there's growth in my mistake. If I'm explaining to you my mistake, what I did wrong, and share with you how I've overcome it, there's growth in that. And I think it's growth that's that serves dual roles. It helps the person that I'm speaking to, but also helps myself, because in a way I'm celebrating, you know, that I've overcome something and I did a good job, because now it's a testimony kind of
Yes.
thing. So back to listening
Yes.
again. Yeah. So we had a really, really good conversation. Do you have anything that you're working on now that you want to share with the audience, or?
Yes. Currently, I believe I'm finished with the book. It's been a God fearing man and a follower of society. I wrote some devotionals on it, but
Mhm.
I really want to get this book published because being a father in a world I would call fatherless, where there's not too many fathers that really are there to raise good children, to young people to have things better for them, to break some of those cycles that we was previously discussing.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of different components that it speak towards young men and men to I'm actually vulnerable a lot in that book when I'm sharing a lot of the things that I went through in my childhood and adulthood to be able to help other men that may have experienced some of those things that I have. I thank God for my wife. She's there to support me in areas that we all may have blind spots within, and helping me to be a better person into this world. And it speaks a lot in there about love and service. Of being a godly, fearing a man is a lot about serving, providing, and leading. And is the breakdown at the beginning is basically about the self leadership, where James needed to go along the right path and leave some things from the past behind.
Hmm. Well, I can't wait to support you,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully you'll be able to give me all the information to share with the audience, so that they can support you as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sean, for having me
Oh my goodness!
today.
Thank you for allowing the time to come and share with me, and just the willingness to be so open and share with me and the listeners. I really appreciate
Yes.
you. I really appreciate
Oh,
you.
I appreciate you and keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm trying. I'd like to thank you guys for listening, taking time out to share this moment with us. We spoke about relationships and growing forward. Um, we didn't really nail down the grow forward part, but what I'd like to leave with you is that you should be open. Like, there's growth in every opportunity. You just have to be open to receive it. There's opportunities where we can grow. We spoke about finances. I know personally, that's a struggle for a lot of people, and it was at some time, and sometimes it's still for me. But it's about choices and surrounding yourself with space, with people that are willing to nudge you along. So, thank you again for listening. I'd like to ask that you like this recording. I'd like to ask that you subscribe to this channel, and I'd also like to ask that you would share. I appreciate you. And I want to remind you that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Thank you for taking time out to listen to Hidden Parts, the podcast. I'm Sean Monet again, and the title of this episode was Rebuilding Relationships and How We Grow Forward.